Good evening. Carrying on from last week, I will be sharing 2 more tales of vengeful ghosts, so get comfy as we delve into another obscure tales of the strange and supernatural. Number 1. Rebecca Cornell. The Cornells were a well-regarded family from Portsmouth, Rhode Island. In 1655, the head of the family, Thomas Cornell Sr., died. His wife Rebecca entrusted the Cornell estate to her son Thomas Jr. On February 8, 1673, Rebecca was found by her grandson dead in her room. She had been badly burned. The first coroner's inquest had been done quickly and stated Rebecca's death had been caused by the fire. They believed she had fallen asleep and ash had fallen from her pipe, setting the fire. It should be noted that no pipe nor pieces of a pipe were found near or around the body. It also should be noted that had that been the case, any spark lit would have been small enough for Rebecca to put out herself. 4 days after her death, Rebecca's brother John came forward with a strange testimony. John had been asleep when he felt something pull up on the bed covers twice. This caused him to wake up thinking someone was trying to get into bed with him. John turned to face his intruder and saw a light. Within the light he saw a figure of a woman. Afraid, he cried out, "In the name of God, what art thou?" The spirit answered, "I am your sister Cornell." Then she spoke again, repeating, "See how I was burnt with fire." The spirit indeed appeared to be burned, about the shoulders, face, and head. John took this visit from his sister spirit to mean she had been murdered. This led to a second inspection of Rebecca's body, where along with the burning, a suspicious wound was found in her stomach. Upon finding the wound in her stomach, her son, Thomas Jr., was arrested and charged with her murder. During Thomas's trial, witnesses painted an unpleasant picture of the Cornell home. They testified to the mistreatment of Rebecca by Thomas and his second wife, Sarah. Witnesses claimed Rebecca was fearful of Sarah and feared that she would come to harm. Thomas was convicted of his mother's murder and sentenced to the gallows. He died on May 23, 1673, at the age of 46. Many people thought Thomas was innocent, including his wife Sarah, who named their daughter Innocent. Upon researching this story, I found that the Cornells had some interesting descendants, which I thought I would share. They include Ezra Cornell, founder of Cornell University, William Ellery, signer of the Declaration of Independence, Presidents Jimmy Carter and Richard Nixon, First Ladies Elizabeth Monroe and Frances Flossom Cleveland, Amelia Earhart, neuroscientist and self-described psychopath James H. Fallon, Bill Gates, and accused axe murderer Lizzie Borden. Lizzie Borden was related to Thomas Cornell Jr. and Sarah Cornell by way of their daughter Innocent. I find so much irony in that fact. Number 2. Anne Walker. In 1680, Anne Walker lived in County Durham, England, with her relative referred to in records only as Walker or Mr. Walker. Exactly how they were related was not recorded. Anne worked as a housekeeper for Mr. Walker, who was a widower. Rumors soon began to circulate amongst the neighbors that Anne was with child. Shortly after the rumors began, she was sent to live with her aunt. Anne was treated very kindly by her aunt, who inquired often who the father of the baby was. She wanted to ensure that her niece and the baby were properly cared for. Anne, however, avoided the question by reassuring her aunt that the father would provide for her and their child. One evening, Mr. Walker and a companion of his, Mark Sharp, came to collect Anne from her aunt's house. 2 weeks passed by without Anne being seen or heard from. Neighbors assumed she had been taken somewhere private to give birth to her child and escape her shame. One night, James Graham, a miller who lived 2 miles from Mr. Walker, was grinding corn in his mill. As he was coming downstairs after putting corn into the hopper, he saw a woman standing in the middle of the floor. Her hair was bloody and hanging around her ears. She had 5 large wounds in her head. Shocked by her appearance, Mr. Graham finally regained his composure and asked the woman what she wanted of him. The woman explained that she was the spirit of Ann Walker, that she had lived with Mr. Walker and had been pregnant with his child. Ann explained to Graham that on the night that Mr. Walker had come to retrieve her from her aunt's house, he had told her that he was taking her to a safe place to birth their child. Mr. Walker had promised to bring her home again so that she could keep his house once more. After, Mr. Walker sent her off with Mark Sharp, who then took her to the moor just by the yellow bankhead and killed her with a pick, giving Anne her head wound she now bore in spirit form for Graham to see. Afterwards, Sharp threw her body into a coal pit and hid the pick, along with his shoes and clothing, under the bank. Anne bid Graham to bring her murderers to justice, or she would continue to haunt him until he did. Graham did not go straight to the authorities as Anne instructed. He was fearful of bringing claims of a spirit-claiming murder against a highly regarded member of the community. The spirit of Ann Walker held true to her word and continued to haunt James Graham until finally he agreed to report the crime. Graham reported his experience with Ann's spirit to the magistrate. In return, the magistrate sent men to check the locations Ann had given to Graham. Sure enough, Ann's body, the pick, shoes, and clothing were found. Mr. Walker and Mr. Sharp were arrested, tried, and sentenced to death for the murder of Ann Walker. What do you think? Did the ghosts of Rebecca and Ann come back to haunt the living, seeking justice for their murders? Or perhaps their true murderers used tales of ghosts to accuse innocent men? Let me know your opinions in the comments section below. That concludes this week's Obscure Tales of the Strange and Supernatural. Join me next Friday for another new tale from our strange past.